So we're holding page of the mimer on ice, ice, the middle of the ice on line 17. Oops. I'm sure what's doing with my video over here. Okay. So we're holding on the fourth page of the mimer, line 17, and we were speaking about the difference in Gan Eden and Olam Haba, Olam Atchiyah. On Gan Eden, you need to have all different types of levels to be able to go higher, to be able to reach the different levels. But when it comes to Olam Haba, Olam Haba, we started speaking about how in Gan Eden it's mainly a reward for Torah, whereas in Olam Haba it's mainly about mitzvahs. So we're speaking about how what is higher than what. We're speaking about that in Atzilus, it comes out seemingly that Torah is higher than mitzvahs, but really in its root, mitzvahs are higher because they come from the level of Ratzon Elyon, and really that higher level of mitzvahs is also expressed down here because the entire reason for Torah is an explanation for the mitzvahs. That the Torah is something that is in service of the mitzvahs. It's explaining the mitzvahs. So therefore that shows that the Torah is really subservient to mitzvahs. So this type of relationship that we have between Torah and mitzvahs, now on the one hand, Torah is the source of the mitzvahs. How do we know the mitzvahs? We have to look in Torah, but on the other hand, the Torah is a higher level than mitzvahs. So he says this same relationship is between the guf and the neshama. Earlier, we also spoke about that Torah doesn't have limitations. Torah can be it's beyond place and time, whereas that's why it's like the nefesh that all over. But when it comes to that's why you can learn the halachos of the karbonos anytime, any place, and that's considered as if you brought the karbonos. Whereas mitzvahs has a limitation where you can bring the karbonos, for example, when you can bring the karbonos, and so on. And this helps us understand this type of idea that Torah is likened to the nefesh, the blood, that's the soul, whereas the mitzvahs, those are the limbs and the organs of the body. So now, going back to that type of relation, we said, the nefesh has to do with Torah, and the body has to do with mitzvahs. This will be understood based on what we just now explained, how mitzvahs are higher than Torah. That will connect it back to the idea how the body is higher than the nefesh. Line 17, page Ches, the fourth page of the copy. Second paragraph on the page, a third paragraph on the page. Then moving for this understood, in a similar vein, this type of which is higher than which is also in the neshama and the body of a person. Dugmas Torah mitzvahs, we said earlier that the Torah is the level of Yadam, one nefesh, but the blood is the level of the soul, and the mitzvahs are like a body, they're like the limbs, the organs. Though the life force and vitality of the body comes from the neshama, so therefore, it seems to say that the neshama is higher, just like mitzvahs are derived from Torah. Mitzvahs are only what Torah instructs you are the mitzvahs. And now we said the mitzvahs are more bhagabola, the Torah is less so. All the root of the body is higher than the root of the neshama. Explain in a different place. That the love and the bond of Hashem to the Yid from the perspective and because of their neshama, like it says, you are children to Havai, your God. It's like a natural love, metaphorically speaking. That is the relationship of Hashem with our neshama is like the love of a father to a son. What does that mean? When you have a relationship of a father and a son, the son occupies essentially space in the father. He, he he's essentially of significance to the father. The root of this love that's between Hashem and the Neshama is likened to the love of a father and a son. It's from a level that over there, the beloved has some significance. It's not something that's coming from Hashem's very essence. As opposed to the love of the body of Eden, of Hashem to the Eden because of their body. It's not because of body is so special. It's not even like the advantage that the child is special. Why? Because it's an essential quality. It's something that means something to my very essence. No, the connection of Hashem to the body of a Yid is elements. It's only as a result of the fact. Top of page test. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bachar Ba'agufti Yisrael, that Hashem chose the Jewish body. The Bechira Chok is in free choice. The Bechira Zui Matz Musa, that its choice is from Hashem's essence. In other words, when Hashem loves us as a child, the child has a built-in relationship. That built-in relationship already shows a limited form when it comes to Hashem, because Hashem is beyond any type of limitation. So it's only in that place, Kaviyachol, where Hashem has lowered himself to have a relationship with us as a father and a son. Whereas the body is an expression of Hashem's free will. This always brings down the fact that He chose our bodies, not the bodies of the nations of the world. That is completely free will. That free will choice, that there's nothing forcing Him to do so, that is something that is completely of Hashem's essence. So therefore, Hashem's connection with the body is of a much higher level than His connection with the neshama. That means that the shorish of the body is higher than the shorish of the neshama, even though the body receives its highest from the neshama. So we see again this type of difference between Torah and mitzvahs. Torah is much better than the mitzvahs, but the mitzvahs are higher than Torah. The whole reason for Torah is the mitzvah. The same thing, the body receives from the neshama, but really its source is higher than the neshama. It's the very fact that the soul comes down to give chayis to the body is a result of that higher shayla. Just like we said about Torah, that it says Daber b'nei Yisrael, Tzavas b'nei Yisrael, that the whole Torah is coming to command the Yidden. Actually, that expression is in a different mind, but we said that it's about explaining the mitzvahs. So that means that it's for the sake of the mitzvahs. The same thing, the neshama is for the sake of the body. Why does the neshama come down for the body? Because it realizes because the advantage of the body, because the root of the body is so much higher. Similar to the fact that the Torah explains and elaborates and elucidates on the mitzvahs. How come? So too the neshama comes down into the body, because the neshama, even though it's higher than the body, why would something higher come in the service of something lower? Because there's an advantage in the lower over the higher. So what you think is lower is not really lower. That's why the higher thing, quote unquote, is coming from the lower, because really the lower is higher. Same thing, the neshama comes down to be mechai the body, just like the Torah comes to explain the mitzvahs, because the mitzvahs are higher than Torah, because the body, which corresponds to the idea of the level of the mitzvahs, is higher than the neshama. Now, before we go on, Now in Ois Dalet, he's going to continue the difference now based on this difference in Torah mitzvahs, which also corresponds to the difference of neshama and body. We'll understand the difference between the reward in Gan Eden, which is a reward for the neshama, and the reward in Chiyas HaMeisim, which is a reward for the body. And they are reflecting these two things. Ois Dalet, line 7, page test. Ini Yadu, it's known, the Zesh of Achiv, the Kiyam mitzvahs, Kol Yisrael himself, the fact that in the obligation of fulfilling the mitzvahs, all Yidden are equal. It's not that some mitzvahs, some Yidden are mechuyev to do mitzvahs, other Yidden are not mechuyev to do mitzvahs. But in the obligation of Torah study, there's many, many levels. To be those that are sitting in tents, meaning they're sitting and learning. They have the time. The obligation of speaking in them and studying them day and night, that it says about the Torah, is in the literal sense that someone that's sitting in yeshiva and koil, etc., they have an obligation to literally learn Torah by day, by night, nonstop. Bali, I saw to business people, they filled their obligation with, it says to learn day and night, fine. If you learn one chapter of Torah in the daytime, in the morning, one chapter of Torah in the evening, in the nighttime, you fulfill that obligation. How come? Why is it that there's a difference between Torah mitzvahs, that Torah has differences between me, but you don't say, let's say, the way I put on film, the way someone else puts on film, it's dependent on us. No, we're all obligated in the same film. Mitzvahs, the mitzvahs are the will of above, like we said before. That's a level of kesef. When we talk about will is beyond division. It's not possible to say my way of keeping Shabbos is different than your way. A business person's Shabbos is different than a person in the Yeshiva oil. No. On the other hand, Torah is Hashem's wisdom. And in wisdom, there's divisions. In ideas, in mind, and intellect, there's divisions. So therefore, it can be indifferent. There is the level of intellect, the way a simple, ordinary human being has a level of intellect. And there's a higher level, the Yoshvei Oil's level of intellect. That's the way he connects with Hashem's Chacham. Yes, we could say, in a similar vein, is concerning Torah study and fulfillment of mitzvahs in actuality. The fact of fulfillment of mitzvahs is with all Yidden, and even those that are sinners amongst Yidden. We say that they are filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate that's filled with seeds. As opposed to Torah study, we don't say that every Yid is a master of Torah study or filled with Torah study. Why is that way? Why do we associate Yidden with all the mitzvahs and filled with mitzvahs, but not with Torah study? Torah is a revealed level of God. The level of godliness has to do with Seder Shtalshlus. It has to do with Chachma and below. And because it's the level of revelations, in revelations, there could be Chas v'Shalom that a Yid will be lacking in his level of divine revelations, which manifests itself in lacking in Torah. But on the other hand, since mitzvahs are the supernal will, that is beyond the level of revelation, the level of Kesser and so on. And the mitzvahs are something that's performed and associated with the body. And the body is Hashem's very essence. He chose them. So it means that the mitzvahs are connected with Hashem's very essence. This idea of fulfillment of mitzvahs is to be found in all Yid. So how we can understand the introductory mission to Pirkei Avos, they'll call Yisrael Yeshlam Chelik L'Olam Haba. That's where it says that every Yid is a portion to the world to come, meaning in Chiyas HaMeisim, though the world of the revelation of the world to come The world of the resurrection is so much higher than the revelation of Gan Eden. And therefore we ask, how could it be of Gan Eden? You need to have so many different things you need to go through to be able to earn Gan Eden. And when it comes to Chiyas Mason, which is so much higher, how could it be that everybody can be there? Still, this revelation will be for all Yidden. The difference is give Gan Eden because Gan Eden is the revelation of Torah that we study in this world. And the future time, in the world of Chiyas HaMeson, there'll be the revelation of mitzvahs that we fulfill now. Since the fulfillment of mitzvahs is in all Yidden, like we mentioned before. Therefore, now we can understand why Kol Yisrael Yeshlam Cheslam Haba, top of page Yud, why all Yidden have a portion in the world to come. Because since all Yidden have the connection with all the mitzvahs, and Olam Haba is about the revelation of mitzvahs. Why that's the reason why the revelation of the world of Chiyas HaMesim will be specifically to souls and bodies. Why after the soul and body? But if the Gan Eden is going to be, which is so high, it's going to be with souls without bodies. Why Chiyas HaMesim is in souls and bodies? Because the fulfillment of mitzvahs is primarily connected with the body, like we mentioned earlier. Now the Rebbe says, but so what role does the neshamas play? But really, it should all be about the body. The Rebbe says an interesting thing in line 3. Weimar, we could say, the fact that the revelation of the world of Chiyas HaMesim will also be for the souls that will become enclosed in the body. While Derech Maimer Zal, similar to what the Chazal say, Godel Talmud Shemevel Demais, the greatness of Talmud is, of Torah study is that brings to action. So Chassidus explains it means that Talmud becomes greater through the mitzvah than it does. Like they said, Talmud Mevel de Meister, that's a godless, but Talmud through the Torah study that brings to action, the Torah study itself becomes increased. Anything that's involved in something greater than it receives as well of that greatness. The Rebbe compares it to something else as well that we see in a more practical sense. Says that we see in actuality the quality of Torah study when it's necessary to resolve something la halacha to be able to bring a ruling in a psak din. Well, she says in the brackets, line 8, similar to what's explained. The hemshech of Tavrish Samakvav, the Kakal Limud, Ubenegiel of Sakdi Befel Mamish, when the study is concerning an actual ruling in halacha. In other words, there's 2 types of Torah study. There's one type of Torah study. I'm sitting down, I'm opening up a Gemara, a Chomesh, whatever, but not because I'm trying to figure out a halachic decision. And there's a type of Torah study that a lot of times a Rav will need to be able to determine what should be the halacha in this case. And he really needs to go into depth to be able to understand the entire sources, and where it's derived, and what is the reasoning behind it, and therefore to be able to use the sources and the reasoning and to apply it in a situation that hasn't ever been discussed explicitly. Then, when he needs to study Torah in such a manner to be able to derive from it a psak din, so then he spoils, puts in much more effort upon himself, because he said about Indian, he comes to a greater depth than just studying this topic without any need for coming to a halachic decision. So here we see in a very practical sense how Godel Talmud, how the Torah study increases and gains from the Maisa. When you're studying Torah removed from the world of action, you're studying Torah with no need for action, then the Torah study is not as deep and not as thorough and not as insightful and so on. But when you're studying Torah because you need to derive from it the practical application, then the Torah study becomes gadol. Then it increases. It goes on line 12. According to this, we could say the advantage of Torah of the future time, the Torah that we will study when Mashiach comes. There will be two components in the Torah study and two aspects of the Torah study that we will experience when Mashiach comes. First of all, then when Mashiach comes, there will be no impediments to Torah study. Like the Rambam says, that then when Mashiach comes, we'll have the freedom from all types of physical concerns. And what's going to be the benefit of it? It's not an end in itself that we're going to have freedom from all worldly concerns, but rather this will enable us to be able to study Torah and to be aware of Hashem without any impediments to our mind. So it's understood that when Mashiach comes, the quality of Torah study will be of a totally higher nature. In addition to that advantage that's going to be when Mashiach comes, there's another advantage. And then there will be another advantage in Torah that we will see. And the Torah that we're going to learn is going to increase because of what the mitzvahs are going to bring now to Torah, because now it's going to become revealed in the mitzvahs a greater level because of their higher source in Torah than Torah that we're not aware of now. When Mashiach comes, that higher source of mitzvahs is not just going to impact the mitzvahs, it's going to also inform and make grow and make the gadol in the Talmud as well. But that itself, in a similar vein of the relationship that we just now said of Torah mitzvahs, that mitzvahs are going to add to the Torah study, so too it's concerning the neshama. The nice was is gal neshamas atzmam. In addition to the fact that Mashiach comes, the root of the neshama itself is going to become revealed, just like the Torah's quality on its own is going to become revealed and available to be studied. The neshama will be a recipient and receive in it also the revelation of the advantage of the body, which is Bechiras Ha'atzim to Haguf will see, and the choosing of Hashem's very essence in the body. It also should be the will of Hashem, through our actions and our service. Especially through our avodah of spreading the well springs outward. Mashiach will merit the study of the Torah of Mashiach from the mouth of Mashiach speedily. That should happen immediately, right now. Any questions?
Like right now, we're studying